I'm Callie, your big sister MD, and this is
Meg. I am a first year junior doctor in the UK.
great. And what's your handle on social media? How can people find you?
So my TikTok is at Megs with an S medicine, and then I'm part of an organization called Medics and Me, which on TikTok is at Medics and Me, and then on Instagram it's at medics.me.
Perfect. Great. And so, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Megs? Where are you from? Where did you study? Stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. So I was originally born in Leeds, which, if you don't know, is a place in Yorkshire in the north of England. And when I was really young, moved to Cheshire. So I grew up in Cheshire, went to school in Chester. It's kind of about half an hour from Leeds, Manchester, and Chester, where I grew up. So a little bit more in the countryside, but still close to big cities. And then I applied to medicine when I was 18, didn't get the grades, did a 3-year degree in pharmacology at Newcastle, and then went straight in to do a 5-year degree, full medicine undergrad degree in Manchester. And then I graduated in July, and I'm now working as a doctor in the northwest of England.
Congratulations. That's super exciting.
Thank you. Thank you.
And where are you practicing right now?
So I'm in the northwest of England at the moment.
Okay. And you're working for the NHS?
Yeah. So in the UK, every single person who graduates medicine has to work for the NHS. And so you have F1 and F2. F1 is what I'm in right now. You rotate around 6 jobs over 2 years, and you do 4 months on each job. So as an F1, you have 3 jobs of 4 months, and then as an F2, 3 jobs of 4 months again. But as an F1, it's called provisional registration. So I couldn't go and practice as a doctor anywhere because I'm not fully registered. I've got a GMC number and I'm called, yeah, so I've got a GMC number and I'm called a doctor and I can prescribe and everything. But it's only at the end of F1 when you pass something that you need a portfolio to demonstrate your learning over the year, and then you are a fully registered doctor after F1. And then during F2 you're like a big step up, but you do F2 as well. And then once you've finished F1 and F2, you're then in a position to stop and either take a break in your studies, move abroad, pursue a different career. And that's commonly people do F1 and F2 and then consider their options.
Oh, okay. And so do you get to choose the specialties that you get to rotate through, or is that like randomly allocated?
So you kind of get to choose. So in the UK, you're ranked. So it used to be you'd be ranked half on your decile in medical school and half on a situational judgment test. But now it's changed. So you're randomly allocated a rank between 1 and however many medical graduates there are in the UK. Or like starting the foundation program. So I think there's maybe 7,000 or like 7 to 9,000. I'm not 100% sure, but it's quite a lot. And then from there, you're randomly allocated a number and you rank your choices. So like you might say Northwest top, London second, 7 third, and Yorkshire fourth, and you rank all like 20 something of them, and then depending on where your rank is what dibs you get on your list. So if you're choosing somewhere that's got a kind of like selection measure of less than 1 person per place, you're almost guaranteed to get it. But like for London, I think there's like 3 applicants per place, so you need to hope that your random number is going to be higher up the list, basically.
And then if it's not, do you have to wait another year to apply, or how does that work?
No, so everyone's guaranteed a job, 100%. So when you leave medical school, you are guaranteed a job in the UK, but you just don't know exactly where it's going to be. So that depends on your rank, but everyone gets given a job. But say you were given a job in Wales and it was in specialities that you really didn't like, you either accept the job or you don't work for a year. You can't be like, oh, I don't want this one, can I move? You have to take the job that you're offered or you don't get to work, basically.
Okay. And do you know what specialty, like what specialty you're looking at as far as like what you want to, specialize in for the rest of your life? Tell us about that.
So I really like emergency medicine and acute medicine. but with a kind of side interest in education. So I really like teaching, and I'd love to do like an educational fellowship and then do a lot of teaching alongside being an A&E doctor.
Great, that sounds awesome. And what inspired you to pursue a career in medicine?
So I always wanted to do medicine since I was quite young. I just thought I was maybe 8 or 9 when I first realized what medicine was. And I just thought it was really mad. Like the whole thing. I went to like a medical museum and I was just like, what? Like everything that happens in our bodies, is it like what even happens in your body? I don't really understand. And then I was really injury prone, so I had appendicitis. Well, that's not an injury, but I like broke my arm, broke my collarbone, broke my ankle. Then as in like playing sport, and it was all playing sport. And then I went to like a medical museum, and then my granny had a visiting dog, so I used to go with her to the hospital where they give the patients like pet therapy. And I was literally
Hmm.
like, this is so cool. Like all these people, like I remember one guy had his arm in like a cage, you know, where in ortho where they put the external
Mhm.
fixation on. At the time I thought it was like a cage, and they were like, yeah, this is fixing his bones all in place. I was like, what? So I feel like I was interested in from quite an early age.
That's awesome. And is that kind of why you wanted to go into emergency medicine with all of like the fractures and breaks that you had?
I feel like it was definitely the part of medicine I was most exposed to before I went to medical school. And in medical school, it was always the part of medicine I found the most exciting. And I also love the fact it doesn't differentiate. Obviously, the NHS in the UK is free for everyone, but you have private practice in most parts of medicine. But in A&E, you could get a newborn baby or someone who's 110. You could get
Yeah.
somebody homeless or someone who is a CEO. There's no discrimination. And I think I like the idea of working in an environment where everyone is, I mean, all of healthcare is like this, but I think none more so than A&E. It's like the front door of the hospital, and anyone and everyone could walk through the door, and everyone is completely equal in the care they receive. And I really like that about it.
Oh, that's so great. I love that. And so you said, well, for you was 5 years, right? Like you graduated within your years and you didn't take any gap years or anything like that. You just went through and did 5 years.
Yeah, so graduate medicine in the UK is 4 years, undergraduate medicine is 5 years, and then you can also do like medicine with an intercalation, which is where you take a year out and get an extra degree in 1 year. So you might do like a BSc in anatomy, anthropology, you could do like business at Imperial. Someone I know has done that. You could do like a master's in tissue engineering or humanitarian aid, or you can do anything you want in the year and get the whole degree in a year. So you get a whole BSc in 1 year or a whole MSc in 1 year integrated into medicine. That's a really cool thing about medicine in the UK. Then another option is you can do medicine with a foundation year or with a gateway year. So that's to widen access to people maybe who come from a humanities background who want to do medicine, or come from widening access where they maybe haven't had so much support in their education to put them in a position to start medical school in year 1. So it's like a year to help them catch up with things or give them a bit more support. Or I don't know loads about it because I didn't do it, but it's essentially a program where it covers a lot of what A-level sciences cover and more, so that when you start medicine, you sort of hit the ground running with everyone. And it's designed to widen access to medicine. So no matter what kind of like college or sixth form you went to, you can get in with lower grade boundaries. So instead of A's, you might need like B's. And it helps like you catch up to speed or whatever.
That's great. That's super good to know. Thank you. And do you want to touch on the pass fail medical school that just happened in the UK?
Yeah, so this year, so for me, it was decided based on half the SJT and half your decile. But there's a new change that's literally just come in this year where your decile in medical school no longer counts. So whether you're ranked top in your medical school or bottom, it doesn't make a difference to where you get a job anymore. It's now that you're allocated a number and then you apply based on that.
And so you said that you're past a pre-med in the application process. So you did a previous degree to medicine. And
Yeah.
so tell us about like you didn't get the grades, why you decided to do a different degree and then how you came back to medicine.
So I really had my heart set on medicine, but I wasn't great at biology and chemistry. I found it, I just found it really hard. I was definitely more of an English and history girl at heart, but I really, really wanted to do medicine. So I kind of persevered with it, really tried, and kind of knew I wasn't going to get in. But when I got an offer to my interviews went really well. I got an offer to Leeds. I was so happy. And then I sort of knew in the back of my mind I didn't think I was going to get the grades, but even so, on the day I was like so gutted. It was honestly really, really hard. But then in the UK you have something called clearing. So if you don't get the grades for the course you're meant to go on, there's loads of courses that like open their doors and say, oh, we've still got places if you want to come and join us. So then I was like, okay, well, through clearing, I'll go to Newcastle and do pharmacology. Had never been to Newcastle before, never even heard of pharmacology. But yeah, I ended up absolutely loving it. And then in second, third year, I reapplied to medicine and then went straight from pharmacology to medicine afterwards.
And did they have any crossover as far as your classes? Like, did you have to start from zero, or did they like
Yeah,
validate some of your courses for you?
no, so I had to start again from zero because I applied to an undergrad course. So because if you apply to postgrad, you do the first 2 years of medicine squished into one, but postgrad's way, way, way more competitive than undergrad medicine as a graduate. There's a lot less places and everyone's obviously coming from a degree. A lot of people have first class degrees, really high UCATs. It's super competitive. And I also didn't really feel I don't know. I've never really been super obviously like I obviously must be quite clever because I'm now a doctor, but like I've never felt super clever. And the idea of doing, especially not in like chemistry and biology and stuff, like I obviously love it now. And I definitely think when I apply myself, I can really get into it. And now I've learned my techniques and definitely got better. But at the time, I was like, I just don't know if I could actually manage 2 years of medicine squished into one. So I went for the undergrad course.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So it sort of like lessens the pressure on you to like learn so much information in such a squished amount of time. Got
Exactly,
it.
exactly.
And what advice would you give to those who are preparing for medical school interviews or application processes this coming September?
Oh my gosh, I could literally speak about this for about 10 days, honestly. Because as a little bit of background, that I founded a charity and it is all about medicine applications. I've always been quite
Oh,
good at,
great.
yeah, so I've always been quite good at helping people with applications because I really liked writing. So like articulating points about why somebody has strengths or weaknesses or reflecting and writing it all up and helping them prepare for questions. That's actually why I started my TikTok and what Medics and Me TikTok all is. Like everything I think
Oh,
of to do with my interview advice, I just put on there. Oh, so cute in his little outfit. So yeah, oh, so cute. So yeah, then what advice would I give? So if I was preparing for an interview, number one, know your like the medical school you're going to inside out. Find whatever clues you can about what's going to be on the interview. If you go type in that medical school admissions policy PDF, it will have a section about the interview and how they score from the interview, what they're looking for on the interview. Just look for the keywords for clues. Like if it says communication is going to be tested, well, that's probably going to be a role play, or it's probably going to be some kind of thing where you've got to explain something to somebody. Like try and pick up on those clues. Second of all, practice speaking out loud because you can write model answers all you want, but if you've not spoken it a lot, it doesn't sound very natural. Third, do not write scripted answers. It sounds so ungenuine. It sounds like someone has written something and you've memorized it and you're talking it. When you're preparing your answers, right? So for answers, I recommend having like 3 key points for each question. So like, why do you want to do medicine? Have like 3 key points or like 3 moments in your story. What qualities do you think you need to be a doctor? Have 3. What challenges do you think medicine will bring? Have 3. Like I just think, or have 2, but I think it really helps bring structure because you can be like firstly, secondly, finally, and it shows the person interviewing that you can like structure an answer and it helps you to not like go on and on and on. What else would I say? Another thing would be like have confidence in yourself. You've been chosen for this interview because they've read your application and they think that you're competent to do medicine. This is just your chance to like put the cherry on top. So it's so much about how you come across as opposed to what you say. Obviously, like, to an extent, you need to like hit the criteria for the interview, but you want to kind of come across as naturally as you can, and yeah, just like genuine in your motivation for medicine, I think. But just a little plug, at Megs Medicine and at medics.me, we've literally been doing hundreds of videos about interview stuff, so please check it out if you're listening to this.
Okay, amazing. Yes. And when people are applying to medical school in the UK, how like they can contact you on Medics and Me via those things that you just said. And then what sort of like services do you offer at Medics and Me for applicants?
So we pair up to non-selective state schools in the UK, and for every student, we offer a one-to-one mentor, PBL sessions, like problem-based learning sessions to help them build skills, mock mini interviews, and then for open access for everyone, we have events every week or every other week, and they're called Meet the Doctor. So that's where we have a doctor, for example, a helicopter medic, an anaesthetist, a pediatric surgeon. We had an obs and gynae reg on like 2 weeks ago, a forensic psychiatrist, and they come on because a lot of our mentees have never met doctors, and they just talk all about their career and their life and what it's been like and things like that. And it just gives everybody an opportunity to meet all of these different doctors and hear about their career and the challenges and what they think the future would be and what advice they wish they could give themselves when they were 18. So we actually are recording them all for our YouTube channel. So yeah, check that out. We've got already recorded, we have and uploaded on our website and on YouTube. We have a consultant surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, and pediatric surgeon, and I think that's the only ones on the website at the moment. Oh, and a year 5 medical student who actually is now a junior doctor, and she was ranked in the top 10% of our medical school and is genuinely incredible. Her name's Holly. So that's a really good one to watch as well.
That sounds amazing. I'm so jealous. I wish I could have had those resources when I was 18. And what advice would you give to pre-med students who are considering a career in medicine as a junior doctor?
I would say medicine, especially these days, is quite, in the UK, obviously we've got the junior doctor strikes, and it's quite controversial. There's a lot of people leaving medicine. There's a lot of challenges associated with medicine. So I would say really expose yourself to the reality of the career. I think a lot of people have a very kind of idealistic view of medicine, and like you're helping patients all day and it's so rewarding and fulfilling, and it's just the most like, and it is that sometimes, but it is also really hard and you have to sacrifice quite a lot. And I think understanding that it is almost a lifestyle choice. Like, for example, last night, all of my friends were going to a Christmas party, and I so wanted to go, but I've just changed jobs and I'm on surgery at the moment, and it's so intense. And I went to the work Christmas meal on Saturday, and I was out for the day yesterday, and I just had to be like, do you know what? At work on Monday, I'm gonna have to be so switched on for like 9 hours. I need Sunday to wash my clothes, make a plan, lay out my gym outfits, plan my meals, do a food shop, get my life together, because I know that when I'm in work, I just cannot like really, at the moment, because I've just started a new job, I don't have any mental capacity for those basic life things really in the week much, because it's so tiring learning the computer system, and it's such a big adjustment when you are a doctor. And I think you have to understand that you need to enjoy it enough that you're happy to sacrifice things to be able to do it. And not everybody wants to do that or should have to do that. And I don't think it's right that that is the way it is, but I think you just need to really be aware of what you're letting yourself in for. That said, I genuinely love it, and I'm really glad I've done it. And I think you can tailor your medical career to suit you. So, for example, I know I'm very passionate and enthusiastic and energetic, and I have all of this energy to bring to medicine. And people say like, oh, you're going to lose this, or like, oh, just wait till you've been in it for a few years. But for me personally, I want to work less than full time, where I work 80% or even 60% and give my whole self to medicine 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week. and then be able to do other things that I really enjoy and find fulfilling, and other work on the side, like teaching or maybe research or doing more charity stuff or kind of speaking to unis about widening access and stuff like that. I feel like everyone is different, and some people will commit their whole lives to being a full-time NHS doctor their entire lives, and they have the capacity to do that. I don't think for me, I don't think I will be full-time clinical, because I love teaching, and I feel like for me to give my whole energy to something, I find I come home, I'm obviously still very junior, so maybe I'll get more used to it, but I feel like I'll get the most out of my career and give the most to patients and my teams if I do it a little bit less, give it my whole heart, but then do other things as well that allow me to kind of retain my energy, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And have you done research before? I mean, you mentioned it.
Yeah, so I think electives are a really good time to get involved in research. So I did some research with Northwest Air Ambulance, and then also presented at the Royal College of Emergency Medicine. They had a conference in Belfast, so that was really cool, like going to Ireland to present so I've presented 3 posters and then been a co-author on another one, and I'm working on a paper at the moment. I wouldn't say that research is necessarily naturally where my heart lies. I think there's a lot of going back and forward and small edits, and you have to be quite patient at playing the long game. But I'm much more of a short-term wins, that you teach a session and then everyone's like, wow, thank you so much, and then you feel really good straight away. I find it harder to commit to things where there isn't a short, that's why I love A&E, because you get such short-term kind of like wins from it. Yeah.
That sounds great. And as somebody that is going to go to a couple of conferences this year as like my first time, can you talk a little bit about what it was like presenting at a conference and kind of what you would recommend for somebody who has never been to a conference before, like some advice that you have?
Yeah, of course. So I would say, so is it an oral presentation or a poster?
No, I'm just going to go as a listener. And then I'm working on
Oh,
a clinical like case study right now that I
amazing.
might end up presenting. So we'll see. But for the
So,
moment, I'm just going as a listener.
so if I was going to go as a listener, do you know what sort of area of medicine is it in?
Yeah, it's in clinical genetics.
Amazing, nice. So I'm guessing clinical genetics consequently is an area that you're really interested in. So what I would do is, I think more than anything, conferences are such a good time to network with people. So you have the opportunity to be in a room with a lot of people nationally and internationally who are the leaders in that field, and I think it's an amazing opportunity to speak to them, to get their advice and their insights. So when you get given the program for the conference, I would look through it and find the talks that you think are going to be the most interesting, and then make yourself a plan, because often there's like multiple different rooms and like different workshops and things going on. So plan out what you find the most interesting, and then look up the people who are giving the talks or who are doing posters, and read a bit about the research that they've done, or what's like, just basically do your homework on them a little bit. And then at the conference there's a lot of breaks where everyone has teas and coffees, and if you spot someone who gave a talk and you've read about the last kind of couple of years of what they've been up to, what they're interested in, what they've been doing, then you can go up to them and say, oh, hi, like, it's really nice to meet you. I'm a med student. I thought the work that you did on X was fascinating. Would you mind telling me a little bit more about that? And do you have any advice on how I could get involved with that kind of thing? And I think it sounds quite scary, but when you approach someone and they can tell that you have a genuine interest, I think the really nice thing about medicine is people want to help people. There's such a culture of mentorship and support. Like, if a aspiring med student contacted us right now and was like, can you help me? You're like, yeah, of course. If a 4th or 5th year is like, can you tell me a bit about being an F1? You're like, yeah, of course. Like, everything I've learned, I'll help you with. And same as you get higher, consultants support trainees, consultants support med students. And I think as I get older, I realize all you want when someone asks for help from you is their genuine like motivation and interest. And if you've done a bit of reading around them and you can demonstrate that you're not just pitching up like, oh, I want to be involved in your research, you're like, actually, I found this fascinating. I did a similar module in my uni. I did a bit of extra reading about X, Y, and Z. do you have any advice on how I can be more involved? Or how did your career really take off in clinical genetics? Or is there anything in your career that really helped you feel be a bit of a turning point to get to where you are? They're never going to turn around and be like, no, sorry. Do you know what I mean? Like, all
Yeah.
you can do is go in open-minded, but having that extra little bit of reading is really helpful, I think.
Okay, that's super great advice. Thank you so much. And so you've already sort of talked about this, but what advice do you have for current medical students who are either in the UK or abroad and are looking to do their residency in the UK?
So, as in they've done their medicine and they want to come and be a doctor in the UK.
Yeah, or just like as they're getting through medical school, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure of the actual logistics, but there is I know of a really good charity called the Association of International Medics. Let me just quickly find what it was called.
Yeah, that
Give
would
me
be amazing. That sounds great.
Association of International Medics UK. So it's called AIM UK. I can maybe send you the link, but it's at
Yeah,
AIM
send it to me.
at AIM underscore UK underscore.
Okay, perfect. And so what advice would you give to UK medical students getting through, um, their 5 or 6 years of medical school and looking to become a doctor?
Number one, have outside interests. I honestly think it is so important to, whatever it is, whether it's crocheting, whether it's painting, cooking, sport, the gym, running, walking, music, playing music, listening to music, reading, poems. It can be anything, but just do things outside of medicine that help you retain your own sense of person and identity, because I feel like sometimes you just go in all day and you're like, please can you sign me off this, please can I watch this, oh let me go to the library now and do 4 hours of studying, okay now I need to go get this signed off, or go and do clinical skills for this, and you're just constantly on the go and trying to learn and do everything. And I think having that safe haven where you're just completely grounded and relaxed is so important. The other thing I would say is build a good support network, have a study crew. So you, for OSCEs, for exams, it is so helpful to just have a team of people where you can just smash it together. And I think that makes a massive difference, being able to work alongside others and support each other and share resources. I think in the UK, it's really good. It's not ranked now, because it means everybody's like, I mean, I was really lucky. Me and my friends would always help each other, but now there's no competitiveness. I think everyone's really happy to, even more so across the board, share resources and things.
That's super great advice. Thank you so much for sharing. And what advice do you have for fellow doctors, especially like, junior doctors?
Well, I mean, I'm quite new to it, so I'm only 4 months in, but so far what I've learned is organization is so important. Small things like having your food shop ready on a Sunday, planning your meals, knowing I'm quite disorganized, so I hang my ID and my keys on a hook every single time I get home. So I'm never ever looking for my stuff in the morning. That would, you can't be late. It's so stressful because obviously there's handover, and if you're late, then it makes the other person stay back and it's quite stressful. So I think it's really helpful and important to be able to be organized and on time. I think also utilize your supervisors. They're there for a reason, and if you reach out to them, they will help you, but they won't necessarily always be like, are you okay, are you okay? So just check in with them, because I honestly guarantee that if you are struggling, there will be hundreds of other people who have struggled before you. And for example, I was on forensic psychiatry and I found it really sad about the patients. A lot of them were in care and then in prison, substance abuse, obviously schizophrenia, etc. And I found it really, really sad. I felt like just the fact that some of them had no next of kin and things like that really got to me. But I spoke to my consultant and she was so supportive. So don't be afraid of asking for help. And what else would I say? I think don't try and run before you can walk. I found in your job, you'll be offered locums and research and teaching and all these things, and I think sometimes it's quite overwhelming and you feel like you should be doing everything, but just doing your job is enough. And as you're adjusting to your new job, I think giving yourself a month or two to just get through the day and do the best that you can in the job you've got. In medicine, we're encouraged a lot to do 15 different things on the side of medicine. And I think don't get sucked in to feeling like you have to do that until you're comfortable to do it. You're being paid to be a doctor and look after patients and work in a team. So don't let yourself be pulled in 15 directions.
That's super great advice. Thank you. And to kind of piggyback off of what you were just saying about, like having, other interests outside of medicine and stuff like that, how do you manage the workload and stress of being a doctor? And how did you manage in medical school? Is it different from how you're managing as a junior doctor? Kind of like, how do you manage stress and the workload in general?
So I think doing things outside of medicine, as I said, having a really good friendship group is really important. I think being outside, it's not like other jobs. Sometimes you will not see windows for a really long time. If you're working in A&E, sometimes you will literally not see outside all day, which is quite intense when you might come to work and it's dark and then work all day and you leave and it's dark and you've not been outside once. And I think just kind of, I park about a 10-minute walk from the hospital, because then I walk 10 minutes in outside and 10 minutes outside, which is really nice. Like every day I just get that kind of fresh air and a little bit of time to just walk outside. I mean, it's not so good when it's raining, but little things like that do make a big difference. I think what else? The team makes such a difference, honestly, like knowing that you have people around you who can support you and help you. I think being able to switch off is really important. So recognizing when you're taking on quite a lot. Also in medical school, I used to love going out, but since being a doctor, I don't really drink as much anymore. Not that I used to drink loads, but the thought of drinking enough to get hungover now that I'm actually working as a doctor is like really scary. I'm like, that is a whole day on the weekend. So I found that I've naturally not stayed out as late if I'm going out with my friends. If I go for drinks, I'll maybe have like 2 drinks instead of 6 drinks. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not that I would say I ever had like a problem with it, but I just think you adjust your lifestyle. And I don't know if that will be the case forever, but I think in this period of massive change, managing things that increase your stress levels, it's really important to recognize, okay, when I'm hungover, I feel a lot more anxious. And then if I know that I'm going into a really tough week of work, that is just not good for me. So mitigating that kind of thing, I think, is really helpful. And again, some people can go out, have a great time, love life with their friends, drink, and it's not a problem. And that just, for me, I just found that my hangovers, like, I just feel quite anxious the next day. So that was something I did myself that helped.
That's great advice. And to kind of piggyback off of like in medical school, the stress load and the workload and all that kind of stuff, could you share some effective study strategies or techniques that have worked well for you?
Yeah, so definitely working in a team with your friends, with OSCE revision a little and often. So having your team of maybe like 2 or 3 or 4 of you and just doing the examinations every day, for example. Or if you're doing like doing past med or QuesMed or question banks while you're in that placement. So if you're on psych, do the psych questions while you're on it, so that as you're doing the questions, you see something and you're like, oh, I remember that was an answer on my MCQ the other day, and it just helps it really get in your head a lot better. Taking days off during exam periods. I never used to do this in like 3rd year and the start of 4th year. I would just work for like 6 weeks and barely take any time off. I think having minimum 1 day off a week is so important. Okay, maybe not like 2 weeks before, but for your own sanity, having an entire day off revision will make you more productive. It will help you think clearer. It will help your mental health. It will help you be less nervous. Also, there are 3 points of a day: morning, afternoon, evening. And I don't think you should ever work all 3. If you're having like a really nice morning with your family, have a really nice morning and go with them. Don't be like, no, I can't come, I'm revising. Go, and then just work in the afternoon and the evening. If you have morning, afternoon, evening, and you've had you really want to go out with your friends, then go out with your friends that night, take the morning off, and then work afternoon, evening the next day. I think for me personally, if you're working AM, PM, evening, your brain just isn't getting any break. And I think if you work 2 out of 3 every day, then you get a really good balance. So like if you're not working in the evening, put down your books at 5:30 and be done, and have the confidence to be like, I had a really great day of work today. I'm going to go and have a really nice evening with my family and watch a film. And then the next day, you might go to the cinema with your friends in the afternoon, which will motivate you to smash the morning and then smash the evening as well. And I think that just enables you to work harder, more consistently, and better as well.
That's such a great way to look at it. I never thought about it like that. Okay, and kind of adding on to breaking down the day into different parts, do you have a work-life balance? And if so, how did you achieve it? Because this is something that is like a, like an urban legend among medical students, having like some sort of mental health stability and work-life balance and free time and stuff like that. So, if you have it, how did you achieve it?
I would definitely say that I have it, because I was always of the opinion that medicine was medicine, and then my life was mine, and that was a part of my life. I was not a medicine is not all of me and never will be. And I have my time to do medicine, and then I have my time to do other things. Doing Medics and Me and the charity stuff is incredible. It's so fulfilling. It's so nice to work in teams. It uses a completely different part of my brain, kind of leading it, coming up with ideas, running it, pitching it, selling it, stuff like that are just things that you would never use in medicine. So I really think if you study medicine and then all of your outside activities are based around medicine, it will be very hard to ever leave it. Whereas I think even like podcasting, for example, this uses quite different skills to medicine and puts you in quite a different headspace to it. And I think making sure that the things you do alongside your degree, if what you do is medicine and then your surgical society and then you do research and then on your spare time you tutor people to get into medicine, it's very hard to find your identity outside of medicine. And I think doing sport or music or drama, like go and be in a play, or start a kind of like knit socks and sell them, or volunteer as, I don't know, just like finding your identity outside of medicine allows you to have a better work-life balance and then give more of yourself to medicine when you're there, I think.
Yeah, that's definitely a difficult lesson.
That said, though, I think it's all well and good saying that. I would say that I have an amazing work-life balance, except for 4 to 6 weeks before exams. And I think you just sort of have to commit to the fact that like a month and a half before the exams, it is going to be like hardcore medicine. And I did not drink pretty much at all 6 weeks before, 4 to 6 weeks before a lot of my exams, where I'd just completely be like, okay, I'll go out, but I'm not going to have any drinks, or okay, this 6 weeks, like my head is fully in the game. And I think by knowing that you're going to fully commit yourself for that 6 weeks, it allows you to have a lot more balance outside of medicine as well.
Completely. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how much medicine can be all consuming. I think that's a great way to talk about it.
Oh yeah, also it will never stop and never go away. Like if you do one research project and then you finish it, it might bring up 3 more opportunities. Medicine is like almost limitless. There will always be more to study. There will always be more to teach. There will always be new opportunities to find. And unless you find your own boundaries of where you're going to say, okay, I'm going to take a step back and focus on another thing that I'm really passionate about, it will be bottomless and there will always be something for you to do. So I think drawing in those boundaries is really important.
Yeah, I never thought about having boundaries with medicine. Like I have boundaries with my family, I have boundaries with my partner, but it's true that you do need to set some boundaries for yourself within medicine, because otherwise there'll be nothing for you left. Like nothing left of you to give. Yeah.
Literally. And I think you find that you can give a lot more when you recognize when you can't pour from an empty cup. Like
Exactly.
you need time to refill yourself to be able to do your best. And I think recognizing what are the green things in your life and what are the red things. The green things are things that make you feel calm, fulfilled, happy, boosted. You leave them feeling better than when you started them. That might be like seeing your friends, doing an activity, journaling, meditating, going to the gym, anything, like speaking to your family, calling a friend on the phone, long drives, listening to music. It can be anything that like boosts you up, and then things that pull you down. You can recognize what are your greens and what are your reds. And I think when you're feeling like you're struggling, it's really important to cut out the reds and boost up the greens to recognize like how you can do better.
I love that. The reds and the greens. That's perfect. It's such like a simplified way to look at it and such an easy way to be like, okay, I need more green in my life right now. Love that. Okay, so can you share an experience or moment during your medical education that significantly impacted or inspired you? It sounds like your rotation on psych was pretty impactful. Do you want to talk about that or anything else that you want to talk about?
So psych was my first job as a doctor, but in medical school, I think I did an elective with Northwest Air Ambulance. So spending time with doctors who pre-hospital medicine, so they go on helicopters and they go out in blue light cars. That was so inspiring. And I just thought it was really incredible, the calm that to be able to go and practice medicine basically out in the community with very little support and limited equipment is, you have to be so kind of competent to be able to do that. And when they walked on the scene, there was a road traffic collision and there were 5 casualties, 2 major traumas. There were over 50 staff there, like police, fire, ambulance, everything. And then the doctor just came on the scene, and he's a professor of emergency medicine as well, and he does this on the side, and he just walks on and was so calm and spoke to the manager of the thing and was like, okay, what's going on, what are our priorities, who's managing what. And you could almost just see, like, they'd arrive on the scene, it was like, right, what is going to happen now, what's our priority? And that level of competency and leadership and management of a really complex situation, and working with the police and the manager of the incident and the ambulance like crew lead, and seeing everyone come together was so inspiring. And that's still kind of like 10 years away for me, but the thought of having that kind of impact in such a stressful situation was so inspiring.
Yeah, I love when doctors have that ability to stay calm in really stressful situations. I think it really like transmits to the patient as well. Like, okay, this is somebody that can help me, because if you're like also freaking out, the patient's gonna be like, uh-oh.
Yeah, my registrar actually gave me a really good piece of advice. He said, as a doctor, you might not know what to do, and you might really not know what to do, but when you're called to a situation, people are expecting you to come with some kind of answer. So even if you don't have a clue what you're doing, you shouldn't freak out. You need to try and give off an aura of calmness around the situation, and know what to do with not knowing what to do. So you might not have a clue what to do next, but you know that, okay, I'm going to escalate this to this person, give them oxygen, or I'm going to do my A to E assessment, escalate to my reg, and then I'm going to kind of order a chest x-ray or start the sepsis 6. So you might not know how to manage the patient, but you know what to do, who to escalate it to, what to do in the meantime, and bring that sense of kind of like calmness to the scenario.
And totally the importance of resources and understanding. I think also what you were saying about knowing your limits and like you can't walk before you run in this scenario also as well is like knowing your competency level, like knowing
Definitely.
that, yeah.
One of the biggest things you can ever do wrong is to just crack on and not ask for help. You'll be in so much more trouble for just trying to handle something on your own than you will for like saying, actually, I have an idea of what's going on, but I'm not really sure. Please, could I ask for some support? It's safer and you learn from it in the future.
And how do you stay, I mean, you're such a motivated and passionate and energetic person, as you said before, like it really transmits even over the camera, even long distance from Paris, I can feel the vibes. So how do you stay motivated and passionate about medicine despite the challenges that come with pursuing medicine?
Oh, that's a good question. I genuinely feel like small things make a really big difference. When people say thank you or recognize something you've done that's been good, or when someone on your team says, oh guys, we smashed it today, like well done, or oh guys, today was a really tough day but we're in it together, I feel like it's so motivating because you feel like you're in it with your team, you feel like what you're doing has been recognized. We're really lucky, our consultant's really supportive. So after the ward round, he bought us all a coffee and he was like, how are you guys doing? What do you want to learn when you're here? How do you want to get the most out of it? Do you want to go to theatre? Do you want to go to clinics? We want to get you, what are you interested in doing as your careers? How can we help you support that? And I think just being around people who are supportive and keen to help you really inspires you to want to do your best as well. I also think in the UK, we have a portfolio and it's called ARCP, and you have to get it signed off every year. So you have to be watched doing certain things and like signed off for it. And I think it's really nice having someone watch you and say, oh, you've really improved, or feeling it's such a learning curve. But like, even for like, you graduate and then you're suddenly a doctor, and it's like learning to drive. When you're in the car with your parents and you don't really have the responsibility, it's not quite so stressful. And then suddenly you're all by yourself driving the car, and it is so different. And you learn more in that 2 months, like driving the car all by yourself, than you did in every single driving lesson times 10 put together. And I feel like medicine is really like that. You arrive and you're like, oh my god, this is wild. And then you actually find that day by day you improve so much. It's really motivating, and it's nice to see, even just in a week, that you improve. Or you might manage a patient who's septic and be literally so freaked out, and then 2 months later do the same and feel really quite like, okay, I'm still like I'm still basically doing the same thing, but I feel a lot more comfortable and confident doing it. And I think managing that is really, like, seeing your own progress is really motivating.
That's such a great analogy with the car too. Like I can just transported me back to when I first got my license, and I like immediately bumped into somebody's back bumper. I was like,
Stressful.
oh my god, this is so amazing. Oh my god, there's nobody else in the car. I'm all by oh, like
Literally.
what resources or tools do you find helpful in expanding your medical knowledge outside of the traditional classroom learning situation?
So there's a thing called BMJ Best Practice in the UK. So the BMJ is the British Medical Journal, and they have this whole kind of website called BMJ Best Practice. That is amazing. I'll just have a quick look in my app section, because I do have quite a few apps for work which are really good. So the BNF is really helpful. That's like what I use in work when you're like prescribing and stuff. There's another one called what else? Geeky Medics is amazing. I love Geeky Medics. I also think that I think it's called Life in the Fast Lane, or like something. Let me see what it's called. Yeah, it's called Life in the Fast Lane, and it's an emergency medicine and critical care blog. That's really interesting and like really helpful. There's another website called Mind the Bleep, which is really good. Yeah, I think that's probably the main ones.
Thank you so much for those resources. And in what ways do you think becoming a doctor has changed you as a person? And you're new to being a doctor, so have you noticed any changes in the past 4 months?
Yeah, I've definitely become more organized, because you literally can't not be organized, and I'm not a naturally organized person, but it forces you to be a lot more organized and a lot more disciplined, because you have to show up for your team and for the patient. So if you're not just letting yourself down if you forget your ID badge and you can't get onto the ward, you're like letting down loads of people in a lot of different ways. So it adds a different level of pressure. So I think organization, I would say that's probably the main one so far. I think also confidence. I'm definitely, as in like, but when I first started, I was like 0.1 out of 10 confident, and now I'm like 0.3 out of 10 confident. I think as a junior doctor, you just always feel a little bit out of your depth, but then you slowly like build up, and then you change jobs, and then you kind of feel like you're starting all over again. But I think over time, you definitely feel yourself having more confidence in yourself and your decisions and things like that.
Amazing. That's so I don't know why, but I feel so proud of you. Like that's awesome. Being so much more confident, like building up your confidence and stuff. Like way to go.
Oh, thanks.
Um, and for the people that don't understand how the UK system works, could you kind of briefly explain how the flow chart of going from medical school to foundation year 1, 2, and then after foundation year, like how that all goes and what it all means?
Yeah. So you do 5 or 6 or however many years of medical school, or 4 years, whatever, and then you do F1, F2. You rotate over 6 rotations over 2 years. So you do 3 rotations per year. Each one's 4 months. You'll do 1 medical, 1 surgical, 1 community, and then the rest. So mine are forensic psychiatry, urology, geriatrics, MAU, which is medical assessment unit, A&E, and then GP. So those are my 6, but someone else could have like TNO, obs and gynae, cardiology, respiratory, GP, and like intensive care. You can have completely different ones. And then when you finish F2, you're off the training program. So you're basically unemployed and you then need to find a job. So you can do especially, so then the classic route is you go into a specialty program. So you have ACCS, which is acute care common STEM. That's for like anesthetics, intensive care, A&E. You have GP training, which is 3 years, surgical training, which I think is 7 or 8 years. That's the Royal College of Surgeons, and it's called the surgical training pathway. So you do core surgical training, which is where you might do like rotating around a lot of different surgical specialties, and then you do your specialist surgical training, and that's when you do like just colorectal or just GI or just TNO or whatever. And then you could do like medical training, which is where you become a med reg, and then you again specialize, so you're a little bit more general in the first couple of years, but just general in medicine, and then specific in medicine, general in surgery, specific in surgery, general in like acute medicine, then specific in A&E or whatever. But it's really competitive at the moment. So I think applicants, it was 5 applicants per place for psych training, A&E training, and anesthetics. It's like 3 applicants per place for surgical training. So often you need to take a year out and do like an F3 year. So you can become like a junior fellow in the hospital, a senior fellow. You can do like become an educational fellow, or you can do an academic clinical fellowship, which is where you go into research and things like that. But you're kind of, after F2, you're not employed by a trust and your course there has finished. But you might have like made a friend while you were in F2 where they'll want to offer you a job because they like you and they thought you were good. So, but if you want to join a specialist training program, you have to often do an exam, which is called, I can't remember what it's called, MSRA maybe, or like something like that. I can't quite remember. And then you do an exam, build a portfolio, and then you have to demonstrate to them why they should choose you.
And so is this like a normal job application process where you have to like have your CV, you do an interview, all that kind of stuff when you're applying for your specialist training? Is that how you get in, or how does that work?
Yeah, so there's an interview, but then there's also a portfolio. So you need points in all different areas, from research, leadership, teaching, showing a special interest. If it's a surgical specialty that you're applying for, you need to demonstrate that you've scrubbed into like however many cases, you've done surgical suturing courses. So you build a portfolio based on their point system.
Okay, that's good to know. And I got a question about the difference between and ST1, which I assume is a specialty training one, and standalones. What is a standalone for all of us that don't understand what that is?
I have no idea. I've never heard of a standalone. So I know that in my like knowledge, you have a kind of like CT1, CT2, which is like core training 1, core training 2. And then I think you go to ST3, which is like specialty training. And then like ST4, ST5, ST6, and then ST7 surgery, and then you're a consultant.
Okay. And when you're a consultant, that is when you can practice private, public, whatever. Like this is when you're a full standing doctor. You've done all of your training and you're completely finished.
Yeah.
Okay. What sort of resources do you have? I mean, you were giving a couple of resources for doctors once they're practicing, but do you have any specific, like, to titrate medications, or like, to calculate medication doses and stuff like that? Do you have any sort of resources for fellow doctors that are practicing?
Yeah, probably MD Calc is really good. They have an app as well, I think. So MD Calc, the BMF, and then you can download your trust guidelines onto your phone as well. So that's really helpful too. Like for example, for hyperkalemia, you might be seeing a patient and they've got like increased potassium. Your trust will have a different management to like another place maybe, and you need to follow your own trust guidelines often. So yeah.
Okay, that's great. And this is just, if you want to talk about this, it's something that I get a lot of questions about, as far as like what is the salary that you can expect as the years go on. For example, in Spain, the resident, like a year 1 resident, as soon as you get out of medical school, they get paid like 1,200, 1,600 euros a month, which is insane. Like just nobody can live off of that
1,200.
salary. Yeah.
Got you.
So do you kind of know what the range is, and does it like escalate as you go through training, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so I right now as an F1, I think It's like 30, it's recently gone up. It used to be £29,000 a year, and now it's 32, I think. But I can get up the official, what it officially is. So also, this is for your basic working week. You get more for out of hours, on calls, weekends, long days, nights. So your pay is supplemented. As a specialty doctor, so as an ST, you earn a basic salary of 50,000 to 80,000. And then if you're a specialist grade doctor, you get 83 to 92,000. And as a consultant, from the 1st of April 2023, your basic salary is 93,000 to 126,000 per year, depending on how long you've been working for.
And do you find as a junior doctor, like the salary that you're being given, is that something that you're able to live comfortably on, or do you feel like it's like not enough?
So we're on
From your
strike.
personal experience?
We're on strike at the moment. So the country of junior doctors says not enough, and I do agree. I think considering you've been in uni for like 5 years minimum, how we get paid £15 an hour, and it just seems crazy the amount of responsibility that you have. That said, I think it's a very difficult situation because obviously all of the public sector should be paid more, and there's an argument of like, well, what about the nurses, what about kind of the other members of the team, what about teachers? So I do appreciate it's a difficult and contentious subject, but I think that hopefully it will get better. And I think what also difficult is we have to pay for our own exams. That's like £900, indemnity insurance, whatever. So there's a lot of expenses involved. I personally manage okay because where I live isn't that expensive to live here. But I think if I lived in like a big city, it would be harder.
And do you have, is the insurance that you just mentioned, is that like malpractice insurance like we have in the States? Is that something like that? And
Yeah.
how much does that cost in Europe? Because in the States it can be like thousands and thousands of dollars.
Oh, so as an F1, it's free. But like
Oh, great.
as you get more experience, it obviously costs more. And if you do private, it costs a lot more.
Okay, that's good to know. So we're getting to the end of the interview here. So as far as just like a wrap-up question, for the international audience that I have, for any foreign students that want to go and practice in the UK, would you recommend it? Why or why not?
I think probably I think so. I haven't been working in the health service long enough to say, I don't think, but based on the statistics, I think a lot of people, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really feel like I can answer it because I haven't been working for long enough to be able to answer it. I think being a doctor anywhere has its pros and cons. And I think one of the things I love about the UK is it has a health service that is open to everyone. Do I think that conditions are great at the moment? No, definitely not. Am I going to keep working in the system? Yes, I am. So like,
No.
there are also a lot of other factors, like my family are from here. I've grown up here. I know the system. Like my whole support network is here. I don't know. I don't know is the answer. I think it's a really personal choice, and I think there's a lot of kind of influencing factors. But I think that yeah, I think it's a personal decision. You just have to do your own research on what are priorities to you. If salary is a massive priority to you, then going to Canada or America or Australia, you're going to be paid a lot more than you're paid here. But if that's not so important to you, like, well, we just saw, like, as a consultant, you get paid £90,000 plus. That is not a small salary. So I think it all just depends on your personal preferences, basically.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I just want to give you the space before we end this interview to talk about Medics and Me. Anything that you want to touch upon that we didn't talk about yet? Maybe just like shout it out again and whatever you want to do to make sure that we really like bring it home.
Yeah, of course. So if one thing that I would love is if anyone who is applying to medicine, please come along to our events, come and get involved, engage on socials. We're always really happy to answer questions. If you're currently a medical student and you want to support students through mentoring and volunteering, it is honestly the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. There is nothing more incredible than feeling like you've played a part in someone getting a place at medical school where they might not have got one before. And yeah, I just really recommend check us out on socials at medics.me on Instagram and at medicsandme on TikTok as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Megs, for this interview. I really appreciate your time.
No worries. It was so nice to meet you.